For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, 30 minutes of time-wasting fun, and have you ever looked at being fired as a badge of honor? I mean, I realize that sometimes it's humiliating, especially with your coworkers if you're close and you have no idea that it's coming and then all of a sudden just boom, you disappear. Yeah, it's a bit strange, right? But have you ever been turfed, been shown the door, and on your way out gone and said, oh, thank God, I'll take it. We've got 30 minutes of time-wasting fun, and it's all about workplace drama with firing on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Have you ever been happy that you were fired? Isn't that what a great question to start the segment? We were having a discussion the other day about, the first time that you were fired. For somebody like me who, it's not that I don't like being told what to do. I just don't like being told what to do without sort of an explanation. So as a writer at companies, it was always rich to me, somebody either giving me, critiques or having me do something, and then when I question them, and it's sort of like, well, just do it. But as a writer, I need a bit more direction. I remember there was one place where I worked at. You have to remember that I've owned my company for 20 some years, so I'm talking like this goes way back. But there was a graphic designer who was a student first, and then he was hired on. I guess he did like a job internship or placement or something. He was there before I got there, but they told me that they hired him out of school. So read that or hear that as he's inexperienced and we don't have to pay him much. That's what that means, right? When you hire a student, that means that person doesn't have high expectations for a good salary, and they'll take the work because they'll take the work, right? They need the experience. I was several levels above that at that point in my life. I had worked, corporate jobs before. I had been a corporate writer. I don't know that I had maybe I did have a best-selling book at the time. I don't recall. It was, like I said, it was a while ago. And so, I command a higher salary when I come in, right? Just as you would too, right? Let's say that you've been a doctor for how many years? You're not just some kid out of school. Well, your years of experience, is not rewarded. I always hate saying that a salary is a reward because you're doing the job for somebody, so but anyway. And so I remember the very first time that I was fired. I was 17. I worked at Red Lobster. And where are they now, right? Look at that company, eh? But I was a teenager. I worked with a bunch of my high school friends. Most of us had jobs there. And this was around the time where digital cameras just came out. I was the first person of my group of friends to have a digital camera. We're going back to like 1999, in case you're wondering, and if you're doing the math on this. And because this was the first time that you could take a picture and, see it on the little tiny screen, literally seconds, right after you take it, it was kind of a novelty. It was sort of a big deal. And then at the time, websites like were blogs or whatever didn't really exist. But I created a website where I would post pictures of us at Red Lobster, from in the kitchen or just being silly in the dining room or whatever it was. There was no like pictures of guests or anything. It wasn't, I wasn't going around taking pictures of people at their tables, but just like behind the scenes kind of stuff, the kitchen staff fooling around or whatever it was. And then the novelty was that everybody could then like go home. This was, I think, maybe when you still had your AOL CDs and your dial-up internet. But I would go home like at night and then upload the pictures and post them on the website and just put little captions or whatever it was. So I guess an early form of social media, really, in a sense. Although it was just kind of like you would just go there and look at the pictures and that was really it. There was no commenting or anything. So that's what I was doing. But the general manager of the restaurant, named Rick, I still remember he looked like Ned Flanders, but he was the total opposite because he was a big old whore. He was, cheating on his wife with some of the staff and was just a total dick. And he was homophobic. So, of course, who does he not like on the staff? The gay guy that everybody loves, right? The fun gay guy. And I was, like I said, I was a teenager. I was 17. So we would go around, we would post, goofy pictures all the time, and then I would go and I'd post them, and everybody would laugh, and then you'd come in the next day, and everybody would be laughing at the pictures, right? It was a conversation thing. And I was always, in my jobs, whenever I worked, I was always, I was always kind of the funny person, the life of the party, and that was sort of, I always really hit it off with teammates. And then once I was there for a while, then I became, intense with the job. And there was a manager who had come in. Her name was Laura. I don't remember if she came from another restaurant or from within the company because, Red Lobster also had Olive Garden, right? Like it was the bigger chain. So I don't remember if she came to us from a Red Lobster location or if she was just somewhere within the company. But I remember people not really liking her all that much. And she was trying to really fit in, and it just didn't work. And she was this, I guess, sort of a know-it-all not in a negative way, but I think it came across that way because people were like, yeah, who are you, chickie? Like, you're just coming in here. We know the job. We know what we're doing here. So just shut up and let us do our thing. But she tried to sort of be included, and it stepped on people's toes, and, so she was trying to be funny and silly one day, and she grabbed me by the arm and like squeezed my arm and was just sort of, like joking around, whatever. And I didn't care for her. So what I had done was I had phoned the company's like 800, I call it a snitch line. I don't even know what you call it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, if you don't feel comfortable going to your manager, we've got an open door. We've got this like toll-free 800 number somewhere across the world. You'll reach somebody. You can leave a message. Tell us what happened. We'll look into it. Well, here's the thing. Is that, yes, you can say that it's confidential or whatever, but at the same time, I'm going and saying, Laura grabbed my arm and squeezed me and bruised my arm. Well, who else did she do that to? So you could, sure, it's anonymous, but at the end of the day, it comes back around to her. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying that those 800 lines are pointless. I'm saying if something happens like that, who else could it have been, right? Who else would have told this story? So it came back to bite me because even though it's confidential, they contact the restaurant manager and say, look, we have this claim that she, grabbed somebody with the arm and squeezed them. She knows right away who it was because, right, how many people did she do that to? So then I have this awkward sit down with her. I'm called into an office and suddenly I'm the bad guy because I'm a snitch and I've basically alerted the corporate office that managers are physically assaulting staff, and nothing happened to her. That's the funny thing, right? Nothing happened to her because I guess either, restaurant manager who is in cahoots with her, or that's my management team, so I'm going to back them. I'm going to get on the case of this, troublemaking fag, and I'll, make life hell for him. So she wasn't, nothing happened to her. She wasn't suspended. She wasn't fired. She wasn't anything. They basically stuck up for her. And then about a week or so later, I'm called in for a meeting. Now, it wasn't an office. It was just in the dining room around the one corner where you would have your employee reviews and shit. They basically did that stuff at like 2, 3 in the afternoon when there wasn't really much of a, the restaurant was kind of empty, and you knew that if there was somebody sitting around the corner at that one table, that it was either an employee review or they were getting in shit or something was happening to them. So I'm called in and I kind of thought, okay, well, whatever. Maybe this is like a follow-up with, are things better with Laura? I was totally innocent to it. Naive maybe would be the word. And it's Rick, the restaurant manager there. And I was kind of like, okay, this is weird. He was never rude to me, but just didn't, he kind of didn't talk to me and whatever. And I was getting fired because I was breaching confidentiality by posting photos from the kitchen and all these other things. Now, the really weird or strange thing about this is the managers that we did like, there were 2 or 3 managers that of the restaurant that we all got along with, that were posing for photos, that were being silly with us in the photos. None of them went and said, hey, JB, you actually can't be doing this. So what I'm thinking in that week, or, maybe it was even before that, was that they were looking for a way to, can me or do something. And because everybody liked me, right? Like we were all having a good time with these pictures. It was fun. It was, but then I don't know if maybe the other managers turned on me as well, because it's like, he ratted on Laura. No, Laura grabbed my arm and bruised me. So, but I'm the bad guy in this, right? And so that was my first firing. And I think maybe that's also kind of where I developed my edge of, no, a business is not going to fuck with me. Like, that's not how this works. You assaulted me. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but did anybody tell me that? Did anybody pull me aside and say, actually, can you take down the website? We're actually not allowed to do that. That's kind of a breach. But instead it was just like, boom, you're gone. So from that point on, I just kind of had this. I've been described as rough around the edges. I've been described as a troublemaker, a shit disturber. But at the end of the day, I'm looking out for myself. So if, like I said, I started out the segment by saying, have you ever been happy that you were fired? There are times as a badge of honor, I was kind of like, you know what? If the fact that I was fired from such and such company because I stood up for myself, or I, didn't settle, or I, whatever it was, I raised, red flag, I did something, I spoke out or whatever. Yeah, I'm happy that I did that. Totally happy that I did that. Now, on the flip side of that, though, when you're a teenager and, you're maybe known as sort of like the mouthy or whatever kid, there's that embarrassment coming home because, mom and dad just, have a good night at work, because I was working in high school. So I would come home from school, have a quick bite to eat, and then I would go to Red Lobster. I'd take the bus to the restaurant. So there's this embarrassment because it's, maybe when you're older, you kind of think, all right, well, I'll just go find something else to do then for the entire duration of my shift. And then I can go home and pretend that I was at work all day, right? There you go. But instead I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home and you lie, right? You lie and say that you quit, even though I don't know that many people believe that because... Here's the thing, right? When you live with your parents, you live with your family. I hadn't been bitching about the job ever. If anything, I was always saying about, showing these pictures of the things that we were doing and having a good time. So I don't know that it passed the sniff test when I come back, come out of nowhere and go, yeah, I quit. And they're like, yeah, all right. And, they take your word for it. Maybe they don't believe you, but they just kind of accept that because that's what you're telling them. But it was hugely embarrassing. And, for my classmates, because like I said, I was still in high school, I was able to go and say, well, no, this is what happened. Well, then the outrage amongst my friends, because again, I was well liked, that just had everybody kind of now have this anger towards the management team, and it didn't really work out well, and eventually people started to quit. Now, I'm not saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying that I caused this mass exodus of people going and saying, oh, we're with Jeremy, we're leaving. I'm not saying that happened at all, but it was definitely, it took the wind out of people's sails, if you know what I mean, where they were just sort of less enthusiastic. And again, I think that that's a good thing because it makes them then go and say, wait a second, if that's going on behind the scenes here, can we trust the managers? Somebody went and told the corporate office or the general manager or whatever what was going on. Now, this was also a restaurant. Let me tell you that We knew that the general, Rick, the guy, was having affairs and whatever, and was making dirty ass comments. This was a restaurant that I went to one day, and there was a Playgirl magazine that somebody had brought in, a nudie men, magazine of men, and it was just sitting on the bench in like the staff area. I ended up stealing it and bringing it home because I was like, hey, you know what? As a teenage boy, yeah, I'll take this. But so the fact that something like that was in a restaurant, in a staff area, and people were just like flipping through it and like, oh my God, what a big cock. Oh my God. Like that was the workplace that we had. That was the workplace. And I was the bad guy for just posting innocent digital photos. I didn't have a hidden camera set up in the women's washroom or anything. I was, this was everybody, there wasn't hidden camera shit. This was everybody knew that I was taking pictures. That wasn't okay. But a Playgirl magazine, I can have porn in my workplace. But now I was underage as well. So that's also, they're distributing porn to minors, essentially, is what's happening here. That could have been a big deal. But, so have you ever been happy, grateful that you were fired from a job? Send me, and there was also one time where I just wanted to be fired so that I could go and claim and get unemployment. Now, I remember being told by, I think it was my mom, who said, well, if you're fired, you can't collect unemployment. Well, being the writer that I am, I ended up putting together a very good case in my filing and said, look, this is how I was treated. This is what was happening. I've never been denied collecting unemployment when I was fired from a job. So as much as it might be my mouth getting me in trouble, I still had the backing of the government because I was able to plead my case and say, look, I just, stuck up for myself, or I was sticking up for other people, or this is what was happening at the company. And, I was able to collect. But yeah, sometimes it's okay to be fired. I realize that there's that humiliation. Now, here's also another part of it, though. Actually, I'm going to tell you that. We're going to take a break. I'm going to tell you about the flip side of that, because now there's this whole thing with this public-facing image of yourself, because undoubtedly, on your social media, you have your job identified in what you do, because that's a big part of somebody's identity nowadays. Well, here's why you might not want to do that. Well, I'll tell you what I mean in a second. We'll be right back on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble, and I am the problem child when it comes to workplace environments. And by that I mean that I speak my mind. I appreciate that companies have policies and rules and whatever, and I'm not saying that I don't follow rules. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm there to do the job. I'm there for me. I'm there to make money. I'm there to, right? That's why you work. Now, these days, though, with social media and with companies having a platform as well, everybody is very quick, and I've never understood why. Everybody is so quick to go and say these big announcements on social media. Got a new job at such and such, looking forward to this new adventure, or when they quit a job, right? Today was my last day, and da-da-da-da. When you think about LinkedIn, everybody has their entire fucking resume on the internet. I don't get that either. Here's my thing. Because I'm in the industry that I'm in, newspaper, radio, broadcasting, whatever, I've always had this thing where if you want me to mention that I work for you, well, I'm advertising your company, that costs you money. So when I've been brought on to, host like a company's podcast, or even just when I've worked somewhere, I've also done contract writing way back in the day. I'm retired now. I'm not taking a job and I'm working for somebody, not happening. But back then I would be, a corporate writer, or I was brought in to do some PR stuff, just as a short-term thing. And suddenly I'm expected to be on their social media pages and on their About Us or their staff page. And I've always said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not, no, I just, and part of that was because, well, I'm Jeremy Bradley, I'm on the radio, whatever, I don't want people seeing that I'm working at this company doing writing. So there was a bit of an ego, I guess, to me at that point. But that was where I kind of said, no, just think about that. Like, my mom worked at a school for so many years. Now they have the list of all the teachers and the pictures. Or my dad worked at a company for so many years. You know, he never had to be on the staff page, whatever. He's there to do the job and then go home. Why does my face have to be a representation of the company? And my dad worked at like a plumbing wholesaler place, right? But again, like, why does my mom's picture as a teacher need to be on the school's website? You could go and say, well, so that people will know who's educating in the community, whatever, but you don't need to know that unless you have that FaceTime in class, right? You have that face-to-face interaction with the teacher. But I don't need to see, like, her name doesn't need to be out there. Her email address doesn't have to be out there for the public. Why? Right? Think about that at most other restaurants. So if you worked at McDonald's, there's a corporate website. They don't have a website just for that location showing who's on the grill and who's the assistant manager and who's all that other stuff. They don't do that. Maybe they'll do it on social media to do like a shout out for an employee or something. But that's where I was like, no. So when on the first day of a job, if I've been brought in and you have to sign like that you give authorization to use your photos, whatever, I've always said no. No. And do you know what happens when you do that, though? Is that the managers look at you and go, okay, he's going to be a problem. Okay, he's going to be difficult. He's going to be trouble. Well, at the same time, it's kind of like, no, I don't know. I have my privacy. Whether I was on the radio or not, I can choose to go and say, I'm here to do whatever, such and such job, whether that's cleaning garbages or, you know, whatever. That doesn't mean that that's fair game to now just go and exploit like everything doesn't need to play out on the internet. And that's where I have this issue. And, you know, maybe people are too out there, like, you know, the identity theft thing, but that's a whole other issue. But I just never understood that, where as soon as I start a job, I go and I blast it to the world. Hey, I'm working at such and such now. Okay, fine. And then now it's like, yes, take a picture of me. I want to be on our Instagram page. But just think about things like that, though. And it reminds me of when people get into relationships as well. They just come out guns blazing with this, I'm in love, and then we get 17,000 fucking pictures of the new happy couple. I actually kind of like watching those relationships fail because you've put it all out there. Like, it's reality TV. It's reality. You're entertaining me. You're putting it out there. I want to see how many seasons this is going to last. Yep. I sure am. Does that make me an asshole? Whatever. But I'm an audience. That's up to me to decide. You know, you made that choice. So, but when it comes to workplaces, yeah, I've never understood that. I kind of will get, you know, the side eye, and I'll have them kind of question me, be like, no, that's fine. It's my face. It's my name. I don't want it put out there. No, thanks. I'm okay. I'm good. I'll just be your corporate writer. I'll do whatever. But I don't need my picture attached to it. I don't need my name on your website. Not happening. And then I would write, you know, blogs or whatever it was, and I would always attribute it to somebody. I would go and say, we either just make a fake name for me, if you're insisting that my name be behind it, or we just don't put an author altogether. Like, that's okay to do that. And I think that maybe they're used to employees wanting that recognition and that screen time, and it's like, yeah, your name's going to be on it. No, I'm okay. Again, I've published many things. I've hosted many things. I don't need my name attached to it. That's fine. If I'm writing, you know, I was hosting a podcast for a trucking company, and they, again, wanted, you know, this big picture of me or whatever. I'm like, this is for your staff. Your staff is the star. It's not my show starring me. I'm not getting top billing on this. So that was almost my way of making it seem like I was trying to do something for but I mean, I was hosting syndicated radio at the time to an audience of 300,000 people and doing red carpets and stuff. So they were lucky to have me. And I think maybe that's what they were wanting, right? Is that they're wanting that name recognition of, oh my God, we've got Jeremy Bradley, this best-selling author and red carpet Hollywood radio host. So I just said no to that. I said, no, I'm not doing that. You're not putting a picture of me. And then when we would record episodes of the podcast, and they would have some guy come in and take pictures of the guests and whatever. And I would be, you know, in the background, or and I'd always say, like, those pictures of me are not going out to the public. So you're going to crop me out. You do whatever it is. I don't want my picture used. It's not. I'm not being part of it. And I happened to be there, by the way, during their 50th anniversary year. So that's also, I was doing PR and stuff for them as well. And they again wanted me to even use like my own cell phone number and stuff like that. And I was like, excuse me, no. I'm known in this city because I was in the newspaper and doing all these things. I'm not giving my cell phone. You guys get a cell phone and give it to me, and I'll use a work phone. But that's not happening. And that goes to my next point. Then is, how many workplaces expect you to use your cell phone for work email or, for people to be calling you or texting you? No. Not happening. At least at our company, that doesn't happen. You will give you a phone, like a segment producer who's on the breaking news beat. I'm not expecting Bonnie or Tim or Jeannie or any of our producers to use their own phone and even though workplaces will offer like, well, we'll pay your phone bill. No, excuse me. I'm not having my own phone number have, clients or whatever calling my personal phone number for this exact reason, because you then get fired and now you're still going to be getting calls for company ABC that canned your ass. Not happening at all. Not happening. Sorry. And then again, so if you refuse that, right? Like if you then go and refuse to have your boss, calling you or texting, hey, just get me, I'll text you tonight. No, thanks. Or having again, people like the fact that I can have my work email coming to my phone. Think about that though. Think about that. Do you really want to be that attached to your job? Really? I mean, no. I'm there. I'll come in. I'm doing the work, and I leave at the end of the day. I'm not there to have friends. I'm not there to be social. I'm not there to be on the group text on the weekends. No. And if you are expecting that, you're going to get me a phone, and you're paying for that phone. Not happening. Because this, now going back, like I said, about, I was doing PR for a company. I'm trying to think of how old I was, but they wanted me to use my phone to be posting on their social media. And I said, no. We don't do that. You give me a work phone, and that's where I will, I'll log in with that phone and I'll use it just for that. I'm not going to use it for my own personal thing, but you're not using my phone. No, because now think about that, right? Your phone battery, the wear and tear on your phone, because now I'm going to be using it twice as much. And, no, I'm not doing it. It'll be a separate phone altogether, and that's how it's going to go. And if I'm difficult by saying, no, excuse me, I'm not using my personal device to do your work, if that makes me the problem, then I don't want to work for you. I think we saw that a lot during the pandemic too, right? With everybody working from home or whatever. I was the first person on this podcast to go and say, you get a company laptop then. I'm sorry, I'm not using my home computer to do the job. If I can't, it's not my problem that I'm not allowed to come into the office, and it's not theirs either. But at the same time, when I come into work in the office, I'm not expected to bring my own desktop computer. You provide that to me. So if you're expecting me to work from home, then you give me a computer to work from home. I'm not now using my home computer, and then you're going to want to have some kind of tracking devices that, watch my logins and shit like that. No thanks. Not happening on my computer. So when I go back to saying that I was kind of the loudmouth, but I was watching out for myself. When I'm at a job, I'm all for it in terms of let's succeed. I'm not taking a job to be a failure. I mean, think about just in my career, I've had successes like crazy. That's why people seek me out to do the work for them. But at the same time, it's those little kinds of things where it's like, oh, well, let's do a picture for the website. Let's get a headshot and we'll put it on the website. No, thanks. Oh, well, let's get your name on this of a blog that you wrote. No, thanks. Oh, okay. Well, hey, we're going to do this picture. Let's do a post for social media. Get in this group shot. No, thanks. Hey, we've got an anniversary book we're putting out about the company, and so we're going to do a thing about the podcast. Let's put a couple shots in there from your recording. No, thanks. Oh, hey, let's have you doing some work for us and whatever. Great, give me a laptop. Oh, can you just use your home computer? No, thanks. What about your own laptop? What about your phone? No, thanks. You can give me a phone. If you want to reach me after hours, it's going to be on a work phone. Sorry. I'm not having a boss or someone text me. And that happened years ago when I was doing corporate writing. I had left early, and as I was leaving the office, the graphic designer had asked me for my phone number because she was still working on something, and she's like, "Oh, well, I'll text you." And I said, "No, that's okay. You can ask me tomorrow, or you can email me to my work address, which I will reply to tomorrow, but I'm not, So that's where I think that there's this expectation where that makes you a good employee. Like, because, you're a team player then, because you've decided to use your own laptop, use your phone, have everybody contact you on the weekends. No. I mean, I guess there are some jobs, right? Like a doctor or whatever, it might have to go through it. But if it's just a basic run-of-the-mill, office job, I'm there to do that. I don't care. This is where I never really get along with people that are in their early 20s and maybe I guess even late 20s, where they have the workplace where it's that, you have the games and you can win a prize. You can win a Starbucks gift card. A $5 Starbucks gift card is a prize today. It's Spirit Week. We're going to dress up. No. We've got beer on tap. We're going to play games and we're going to do this and we're going to... No, I'm there to write and that's all. Thank you so much. Okay? That's all we're going to do. I'm just going to write for you and that is all. That's the extent of my involvement here. And if that makes me sound like an old curmudgeon or a bad guy or not a team player, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Tell me your thoughts. Send me an email live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter @thescribbleshow. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.